Hey guys, what's up? Ruben here from Midnight Garage. So in the last video I showed you guys how to clean an engine without painting it, but that was actually me prepping the engine for paint because I wanted painted because I think that looks even better. So that's what I'm going to show you guys today. If you're looking at this engine and you think, oh, this is actually clean enough for me, and you haven't seen the previous video, then I can definitely recommend you watch that previous video, because then I went from a dirty engine all the way to this. And if that's good enough for you, then you just need that video. But I want it even cleaner and I want to have it painted, so that's what I'm going to do today. And because the cleaning of the engine has already been discussed in the previous video, I'm just going to skip that part right away, and we're going to start right away with prepping the engine. So first up, we're going to remove the distributor and we're going to swap the valve cover for a dirty one, because that saves us a whole lot of masking. Same goes with the sump. There's going to be a different sump, so I'm not going to mask this sump, but I'm just going to replace that later on. If you're going to remove your distributor, it's a good thing to mark it so that you can have it in exactly the right position once you reinstall everything. Be sure that when you're going to paint this, that it's actually an edge and not something you've painted on it, because if you're going to paint over it, you won't see where the markings are in that case. There we are. Right, valve cover is done. Let's talk about the coolant hoses. Now, personally, I'm going to leave them on the car because we have some new coolant hoses that are going to be on it, and this pretty much covers everything pretty well. But if you're going to keep your old coolant hoses and you don't want to paint over them, then I would just remove them and I would just put some tape around it like this and then pretty much close it, and that should work as well. As for the intake and exhaust side, it's best to remove the threads, tape everything off, and then with an X-Acto knife cut around the edges. I'm not going to do this, I'm just going to put some paper in each port, and then I'm going to clean around the edges once I'm done painting. That's a whole lot easier and works just as well. It's also very important that you tape off all the sensors, because if you don't, you're probably going to get paint all over the metal connectors, and if you do that, they probably won't connect properly anymore, and then that will lead to very strange electrical issues, and you don't want that. Also, it's best to remove the flywheel and the clutch, but we're going to replace that later on, so I'm just going to leave that on right now. Alright, here's the rear of the engine. If you look closely, you can see that that oil filter probably never has been replaced, so that's actually pretty bad, but we're going to put a new one on there anyways. We're going to leave it on there so we can paint over it. Same goes with that little box there. You can paint over it, you can remove it. I'm just going to paint over it because it's the rear of the engine. No one's ever going to look at that. And then finally, on the distribution sides, it's best to have the full cover on, but this being a Mini-Me with a head swap, we can't put a fitting cover on that, so I'm going to tape this all off. And well, I'm not too worried about that anyways, because we're going to replace the cam gear, and we're going to replace the water pump, and we're going to replace the belt, so everything needs to come off anyways. But it's best, if possible, to have the full covers over it and then clean up the covers afterwards. That at least is the easiest way to do so. I am going to remove the alternator because I'm going to paint that one separately though. Alright, so all the prep work has been done. Now it's time for me to clean everything just one more time with a little bit of the greaser, and then we're done and ready to paint. As for paint, I'm going to be using the heat resistant paint from Motip. It's rated to 800 degrees centigrade, which is slightly overkill. There is another alternative by Motip, and that's the engine paint. I've used that once as well. It's rated to 150 degrees centigrade. That works as well, but it looks a bit rougher. Like, for example, you've sanded the entire engine block with 80 grit, for example, or 40 grit. It slightly looks rougher. If you like that look, then you can use the engine paint, but I want a slightly smoother look, so I'm just going to stick to the heat resistant paint. The good thing about this paint is that it is in fact a paint that's also a primer, so you don't need to use a separate primer. If you want your engine, for example, in a special color, like, I don't know, pink, or I don't know, I'm just saying something like a pearlescent color or something, then you should use this paint as a primer first, then paint the special color you want to use over it, and then finally you can use a heat resistant clear coat, which you can cover over it. We, however, are going to stick to silver because I think that a silver engine block just looks a whole lot cleaner than an engine in a random color. But that's just me. One layer done, now it's time to wait, and now we're going to do a couple more layers. I think 4 or 5 should be enough. Alright, I've done 5 layers, so I think that should be enough. Next up is the clear coat. 4 layers of clear coat further, and now it's time to peel off all the masking tape, which in my part always is the most fun part of painting an item. If you have some overspray, then you can easily clean that up with some thinner and a piece of paper. Now for it, it's not really that important because once we're going to do the distribution, then we are going to take this cover off and then we're going to repaint that. But yeah, just showing you guys. Right, put the distributor back. As a little extra, I've painted some of the brackets and the alternator in a darker gray, which hopefully will do good in combination with the silver. Yeah, to be honest, I'm quite happy with the outcome. And finally for today, we're going to swap out some of these black hoses for some blue ones because, you know, there's some overspray over it now and I think it looks slightly better just to close off the video. Yeah, that already looks a whole lot better. Now, let's do a before and after shot. Yeah, I'm happy with the result. In the next video, guys, we are going to change the sump because Case has a better sump and I'm going to talk a bit more about that in the next video. But yeah, that's so you know what you can expect next time. So yeah, that was the video for today. I hope you liked it. Leave a like if you did and hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.